What's up, everybody? I'm back. It's Manny, Learn to Fight. And today we're getting into some MMA documentaries. I love MMA documentaries. One of my favorite movies of all time is Rickson Gracie Choke. So there's this new movie coming out called The Smash Machine. Now, this is actually not a new movie. It's actually a very old movie. It's originally a documentary, one of the oldest MMA documentaries, called The Smash Machine. True story about a guy named Kerr. On a side note, I actually made it to the last casting call of this movie. No bullshit. I was actually on the last casting call to be one of Mark Kerr's opponents in this movie, or be one of The Rock's opponents in this movie. But the way things played out, the call or whatever, I had to be in New York for a few weeks, and it just didn't match with the time frame, so I wasn't able to make it out there. But I almost was in this movie. You know, it comes out soon, so we're gonna go watch the original film trailer, and then we're gonna watch the new film trailer, and we're gonna get into this story because it's an incredible story about the fight game, martial arts, competition, addiction, overcoming these things, and it's a true story. It's a raw story. So let's get straight into it. The Smash Machine.
People have bought into the stereotype. We're going to show you the bloodiest, goriest fighting sport ever.
Look at it. Those people that thinks that it is.
Like you have a couple of cock roosters and you put the razors on their feet and you let them go at each other until you kill each other.
You know, I don't.
There's Gary Goodrich. There's MMA royalty, MMA legends in this film. And mind you, this film came out in the 90s. This documentary came out in the 90s.
Well, I try to punch a guy's face in. You know, sometimes I have to.
Brutal. That was back in the day. You should be able to headbutt people. It's a different game.
First, I thought it was really great because I knew he was so talented, and he makes a lot more money than most fighters do. I didn't realize what it entailed.
So you feel that?
Yeah. The question you ask yourself is, how competitive are you? What lanes are you willing to go to try to win?
Don't make any mistakes.
I mean, one of the things about this documentary is it was 100% real and raw. So it showed his drug addiction. It showed him on steroids. It showed the blood. It showed the guts. And now I'm very curious to see what the Hollywood version of this movie is like. And I'm interested in this movie because I almost was in the movie. I was very close on the last casting call. So
This dude just came out ready to fight. Slowly, month by month, you know, it's like I lose a little more control.
Highs from the sport are like no other highs in the world. You know, like having 12,000 people out there cheering for you. That's orgasmic. That's like high. You know, and it's so raw because it's just two people out there competing in the most primitive form possible.
and this was in Pride FC in Japan. Yeah, you know, a lot of people always ask and don't understand, like, why would someone want to hop in the cage and fight, or hop in the ring and fight? And there's really no explanation for it. There's nothing that really comes close to what you feel when you hop in that cage. There's nothing that really comes close to it. So this documentary was so good back in the day. So that was the real movie. And now let's go into the new Hollywood movie. Let's see the difference. Let's see what it's looking like.
Probably looking at my eyes.
How did that happen?
Well, have you ever heard of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC?
That's the bloody thing they're trying to ban.
This guy is the best he has ever seen.
This is the thing. I don't like the original documentary was real and raw. Like already 2 seconds in, what's up with all this goofy stuff? You know what I'm saying? You're making our sport pussified. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe I'm being too hard on it, but so far from what I'm seeing, the documentary is way better than this.
Do you hate each other when you fight?
Absolutely not.
How do you know Mark Kerr? Oh, we go way back. But he's a buddy of mine.
Come on, baby. Too much?
Never.
Too much?
No.
Please welcome in his octagon debut, Mark Kerr!
Winning is the best feeling there is.
I'm already annoyed. See, this is the problem. The movie itself was already great. The original movie was already great. There was no need to bring all this extra stuff, Hollywood BS. The original movie was real and raw. You know, this is just some goofiness, in my opinion. You know, obviously, yeah, it's great. We're bringing light back to guys like Mark Kerr and the fight game, but it just puts a bad taste in my mouth.
It's 40,000 people, and they're cheering you on. There's no other high like it in the world. No contract, no money?
No money.
Do you have any stronger pain medication?
I mean, the Rock does look like Mark Kerr, though. I can't even front. He does look like Mark Kerr. That's Bass Rutten, MMA royalty, MMA legend.
Advil?
Advil?
Yeah.
Don, would you like
No.
They're handing them out like candy. Let's all get in. Everybody get in. Yeah, Don, can you take this picture for us?
Yeah.
What are you thinking at the beginning of the fight?
It's simple. Am I going to hurt him before he hurts me?
These guys were juiced out of their mind back in the 90s as well. It's not even a question.
I'm sure
this Grand Prix to crown the greatest fighter in the world. He has come back from the brink. Let's see if he can pull out.
You know what's crazy to me? It's crazy how real life is way more exciting than the movies, because you know you see the Hollywood representation of how they are trying to recreate the original film and the intensity of what it was. It doesn't come close at all, you know. So I don't know. It's interesting to me.
A victory over Mark Coleman. Have you spoken to either about fighting such a good friend for a life-changing amount of money?
I faced it all.
I just need you to let me in.
I took the bull.
Always about you. Only about fighting you.
Let's fucking go.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it because I love MMA. All right, so I'm gonna watch it. So far, I'm annoyed. You know, I'm very annoyed with what I'm seeing. You know, you can only go so far. You can only get so far. You can. A big issue nowadays is they keep recreating these movies movies that don't need to be recreated. I think it's great that these old school guys are getting their love and getting the spotlight that they deserve, because so many of these new MMA fans never heard of guys like Mark Kerr, never heard of guys like Gary Goodridge, you know, and never seen the documentaries that they put out, you know, which were real and raw. Matter of fact, this is another scene from the actual real documentary, not the movie, the real shit. No, this isn't from the documentary. It's interesting to me how different fighters look after they retire as well. He looks way different, way different. But technical difficulties. He looks way different. The Smash Machine. That's a real fitting name for. That's a real fitting name for Mark Kerr. Because his style was just straight up wrestling, and he would just smash dudes. So that is a real fitting name. It's gonna be harder and harder to see the actual real documentary. The real documentary is so good. With these new movies coming in, they wash out all the
understanding that I had a problem, understanding that that it wasn't going to go away by itself, that I needed help. It wasn't a single person fight. I needed people around me, a support team, to help me fight this disease.
Explain where we're going right now.
This is the halfway house that I stayed in for like.
The beautiful thing about the story, the Smash Machine, is you have someone like Mark Kerr. You look at him, he's jacked. He's an incredible fighter. He's a ruthless warrior. But even him, he gets destroyed by addiction. And that's it's just real. It's just real and raw. Doesn't matter how strong you are. Doesn't matter how much of a good fighter you are. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Doesn't matter how famous you are. Doesn't matter anything. At the end of the day, we're all human, and that was the great thing about the original Smash Machine movie. We see a guy who looks like a Greek god, and he's in the cage beating people up, and then he is a slave to his addiction, and I've said in recent videos and recent podcasts, high-level competitors, high-level athletes, and addiction goes hand in hand, because when you're so zoned in on your sport and you're so into it, and you really, sometimes you don't evolve in other places of your life. So I've seen it with many fighters and many athletes having addiction problems, and it can happen to literally to anybody. So let's get back to it.
Got 6 months, and it's just a transitional place, to help you kind of balance when you get newly recovered, from alcohol or drug addiction. It's an environment where there's accountability, and there's people there to help support you and things like that.
How's it feel coming back to this halfway house again, Mark?
It's weird. It's still weird.
And this is Mark Kerr, like way after his fight career and way after the drug addiction. But in this actual film, the original documentary, they show him like actually doing, I believe it was heroin or something like that. And it just shows him at the top of the game, beating people up, dominating the sport, and having big success, and then everything kind of crashing down on him, So it's really such an incredible story, just a great story. And to see him bounce back, and to see him now, it's been like probably 20 years or more since that documentary came out. and now it's back. It's back, and it's going to be a Hollywood film. But the Hollywood films can never equate to the original. It can really never equate to the original. And, you know, it's hard to find on YouTube, you know, like videos of the original documentary, but I'm going to try to find them for you guys. But think about how many martial artists and how many famous fighters have struggled with addiction now at this point. At this point, you know, we've had guys like Conor McGregor. We've had guys like BJ Penn. We've had guys like allegedly Nick Diaz. You know, there's been so many fighters that have struggled with addiction and so many athletes that have struggled with addiction, you know? So I think it's a great story. And I think also it's a great story because there's so many people who struggle with addiction, and to see someone as strong as Mark Kerr struggle with it and come out on the other side of it is inspiring. So, and I'm very interested in this movie. Like I said, I was on the last casting call. I was literally right there. I was right there. I was going to get it, but I live in Cali. They need me in New York for a few weeks, and it just didn't work out. You know, it just didn't work out. It's weird seeing some of the old school fighters
free cookie
now as old men. You know what I'm saying? As middle-aged men. It's just kind of strange, but you know, like this is Mark Kerr back in the day. This is Mark Kerr back in the day right here.
Mark was Specimen Kerr, originally nicknamed the Smashing Machine in Brazil when he fought in the Vale Tudo down there.
Bro's on steroids. He's on all the steroids. But that doesn't, it was just a different time. Back in those days, it was a different time. Everyone was on steroids. You know, they were headbutting. It was a different time. You had to be a real wild dude to get in the cage or get in the ring. I mean, imagine the mindset. Imagine the mindset of Mark Kerr. You're going to go down to Brazil. You're going to fight some random dude with no gloves, no blood tests, you know, and they're going to pay you however much they're going to pay you. But these dudes were wild guys. They're more wild than the fighters of today, in my opinion. And it's also crazy because all those dudes back in the day, they look like way older. You know what I'm saying? In that movie or in these fights, you know, Mark Kerr is like in his 20s, I believe. And he looks like he's like damn near like in his 40s, you know? Same thing with Mark Coleman. If you ever seen Mark Coleman in Pride back in the day, you know, he looks way older. Way older. But let's look at Mark Kerr and his fighting career. You know, Mark Kerr, the Smash Machine. So he started fighting way back in 1997. And he came in the game dominating. Look at this. Dominating, win after win after win after win after win, like, you know, in grappling and MMA. You know, he fought Igor Verchanchin. It was a legal no contest, but a lot of wins. He didn't lose until he came to Pride, which Pride was known for doing a lot of shenanigans. And then at this stage, when he fought Igor Verchanchin again the second time around, you could start to see he went on a losing streak. I believe this is when the addiction started to take over. And then, you know, he kept fighting all the way until 2009. You know, he fought King Mo. So it's just a cool story. You know, MMA fighters, there's so many fighters and there's so many different stories. You know, it's not all about wins and losses. There's just so much going on in the beautiful sport of MMA. So I really hope Mark's getting paid big time for this. And I'm looking forward to watching this movie. I really am. Other things that's going on in MMA right now. We got here's the thing, right? A lot of guys, especially this is something that a lot of MMA fans need to understand. There's been videos of like, you know, fans coming up to the fighters after a fight, after a dude just got his ass beat or whatever, and they're like, you know, taunting the fighter or whatever, and they're surprised when they get clocked. These are the type of people that fighters are. Like hardcore, very intense, very chaotic type of people. You know what I'm saying? Who come from all different types of backgrounds. I mean, look at what's going on recently. Cedric Dumas, right? I don't know the ins and out of his case, but he just got arrested for armed robbery and all this other stuff, and he's on like a $500K bond. You know what I'm saying? And he was in the UFC. Like these are type of fighters, these type of people that fighters are. So you know, we look at like John Jones, you know, when he got in that car accident with the pregnant lady. And now we look at Francis. Francis has gotten an accident, you know, which anybody can get in a car accident. You know what I'm saying? But Francis got in an accident where someone actually died, like recently. So, you know, fighters are chaotic people. So when you're at a fight and a fighter loses, your fighter loses, whatever, don't go up to them and be like, oh, whatever, I lost money on you or whatever. You know, I almost actually flipped out on some. Actually, no, I did flip out on somebody before after a fight. Like, I'm seeing red, you know, and I don't even know who came up to me to this day, but it was someone came up to me and I'm in the back. I got a headache and I'm all wrapped up and they're like trying to get my attention and they're saying something. And I'm like, hey, just give me a minute. You know what I'm saying? Just give me a minute. And I flipped out on them. But yeah, I that's just what it is. You know, what else is going on? We got Bo Nickel. He's fighting what's his name? De Ritter, you know, I believe this weekend. And to be honest, from what I'm seeing right now, I'm gonna go with De Ritter. They're saying that Bo is coming in at 222. I doubt it, but De Ritter is just a good matchup for him. He's a good grappler, great jiu-jitsu. You know, Bo is a good fighter, but I just don't really see him winning this fight, to be honest, to be 1,000% honest. This is a bad matchup for him. In the future, you know, right now we got the Smash Machine Mark Kerr documentary. In the future, it's going to be Conor McGregor's documentary. In the future, it's going to be a John Jones documentary. You know what I'm saying? So these stories are crazy. These stories are great. But top MMA documentaries, I got to say the Smash Machine is up there. And then Choke with Rickson Gracie is up there. The Choke is actually probably my favorite. They just made these movies and these documentaries way different back in the day. If you've never seen Choke, this is Choke right here.
Let's see if you know how to make an arm lock. I give up.
Basically,
Rickson Gracie, the reigning no-holds-barred fighting champion of the world. A claim he supported in devastating fashion in last year's 1994 Vale Tudo, Japan.
What made these documentaries great, Rickson Gracie, Choke, the Smash Machine, they were just real and raw. It was reality TV, but there's just more to it, just extra to it, you know? And that's why they're timeless pieces of work. You can't go back and Hollywood up the documentary Choke. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they really shouldn't they should not Hollywood up the documentary, the Smash Machine. But at the end of the day, I understand it too. It's bringing spotlight to the sport and to these stories.
Tell who is the king.
With 3 weeks to go before the second Vale Tudo. The world's best fighters are gunning for the champ.
Japan, please welcome, all the way from Rio de Janeiro, with a record of 398 wins.
398 wins. I'm going to call cap on that. I'm going to really call cap. How are you fighting 398 times? You know what I'm saying? Like, Hickson was an amazing fighter. He was an undefeated fighter, but 398 times? Come on, dog.
No defeat. Representing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, current freestyle fighting champion of the world, Hickson Gracie.
Yeah, the 90s was a different time. The 90s was definitely a different time. They had amazing fighters. The difference was, like, we still have amazing fighters today, but the fighters of the 90s, they had more heart because they were just real wild dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like Chuck Liddell with his head shaved coming out, just knocking people out. That's a wild dude, you know? And nowadays, there's not as many wild dudes, you know? But the sport is still crazy. I always go back and I watch some of these documentaries for inspiration, especially the Choke documentary with Hickson Gracie. So, yeah, the Smashing Machine, Mark Kerr. Let's see how old he is nowadays. So what's he doing nowadays? Mark Kerr, 56 years old. He's not really even old, you know what I'm saying? But when you're a fighter, you're kind of living life kind of fast, you know? Mark Kerr, this day and age, 56 years old. He looks, you know, older than that, you know. Gary Goodridge is one of the guys that he fought in his actual career. Gary Goodridge, you know, I mean, last I heard he was having some serious brain issues, but Gary Goodridge is only 59. You know what I'm saying? I thought he was damn near in his 60s. And there's Hickson Gracie Choke, there's the Smash Machine, and then there's a movie called Foxcatcher. The movie Foxcatcher was actually a really good movie, and it was based on a true story of Mark Schultz and Dave Schultz. Dave Schultz was actually a really good fighter who fought in the UFC, and his brother actually got killed by some rich dude who, you know, was obsessed with wrestlers. But I believe Dave Schultz actually fought in the UFC. So, I don't know. Mark Schultz fought in the UFC. Dave Schultz was the one who actually got murdered by this dude, you know. And that movie, Foxcatcher, is a great movie. It's actually a really good movie. So let me see. Here we go.
We've got passion, we've got determination. Like, and if we set our sights on something, you better believe it's happening. We always feel
They say, there's a saying, life is stranger than fiction, and it's really true.
Wealthy people can be an eccentric bunch. They often have goals that many would consider outlandish, but with more resources at their disposal than some countries, they usually have the means to at least attempt to pursue their dreams. And John DuPont, heir to the massive DuPont family fortune, was a man with a dream.
So John DuPont, a dude who was a multi-millionaire, you know, heir to the throne of the DuPont family. What does he want, right? He could be anything in the world. He could do anything in the world. What does he want? He wants to be a fighter. You know what I'm saying? He wants to be a fighter, but you can't buy being a fighter. You can't buy, like, being that type of person or being a martial artist. You got to earn this
Born
shit.
in 1938, Mr. DuPont grew up in a world of wealth and privilege that most of us could barely even begin to imagine. But none of that seemed to be able to afford him happiness. As a child, he was very much a loner who didn't really have many friends and primarily hung around his mother.
Like I said earlier in the recent video, martial arts and anxiety, right? So you look at someone like John DuPont, who is a dude who can have anything in the world, super wealthy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, he has extreme mental health issues because, you know, he's not really doing any type of thing like that, martial art. He's not really, he's missing something. You know what I'm saying? And it shows.
During high school, he developed an interest in zoology, particularly ornithology, or the study of birds if you're like me and had no idea what that word meant 5 seconds ago. This interest became so strong that after high school, he went to college to study for it, initially enrolling in the University of...
All right, this guy's boring the shit out of me. Get to the goods. I'm going to skip to the goods as he's boring the piss out of me.
And one field of battle that the United States, these sports were terribly underfunded. If you were a successful college wrestler, there was very limited opportunity for you to capitalize on those skills after you graduated.
Now, this time where all this is going on, you also have the Smash Machine on the other side of Japan beating people's ass. You know what I'm saying? So that's the environment that was in the 90s. You have guys who are Olympic level wrestlers who also want to make money and they don't have an outlet to do so. So now you get guys like the Foxcatcher scenario. But these guys were really good fighters and really good martial artists and really good wrestlers.
Meaning that very talented wrestlers would often have to put their dreams on hold and go find a job that could actually support them and their family.
And this is still something that goes on today. That's actually the hardest part of being a professional fighter. Unless you're making good money, or unless you have like sponsors and stuff like that who like are able to pay you a good amount, the biggest hurdle in being a professional fighter is managing your life and managing fighting. Because when you're fighting, you need to be all in. You need to really be all in. And for a lot of fighters, you know, they have to have like a second job, or they have a business, or they have this, or have that. Especially if you're only fighting 4 times a year max, you know, unless you're making big money for all those fights, it's a hard way to make it happen.
In the USSR, if you showed promise as a wrestler, there was a good chance you could find a spot on the national team and make plenty of money to pay your bills and feed your family while remaining laser focused on your goal of being the best athlete you could possibly be.
And that's why MMA needs to be in the Olympics. We got dudes in Russia who are beating American fighters' asses. You know what I'm saying? And we in America have some of the best fighters in the world. Actually, we have the best fighter in the world, John Jones. You know, but these guys are over there funded by the Russian government.
Result, the talent pool the Soviets had at their disposal for these sports was completely night and day compared to the rest of the world. And as someone with a considerable amount of resources at his disposal, John DuPont wanted to try and even the playing field and leave an impact on American athletics that would endure long after he was gone. He began formulating...
So this is the 90s is just wild, man, for MMA. All at this same time, you got the John DuPont guy, you know, murdering Dave Schultz. You have Mark Schultz in MMA. You have the rise of the UFC, which had never been seen before. At the same time, you have in Japan, on the other side of the world, just these crazy, you know, fights with hundreds of thousands of people showing up, and they're juiced out of their mind, and people are getting knocked out and stomped on. Man, the 90s was a crazy time for MMA. It really, really was.
a plan to create a state-of-the-art facility for athletes who are engaged in these underfunded sports to come and hone their craft. With the one who ate, slept, and breathed wrestling. His laid-back attitude and ability to explain complex concepts in an easy-to-understand way made him a perfect candidate. He was also widely admired throughout the world for his considerable skill and prowess on the mat. Even in the
And that's the thing, you know, they always say, oh, this guy's the baddest man in the world. This guy's the baddest man in the world. Okay, Dave Schultz was a beast, right? A hell of a wrestler, a good dude, a solid dude. And his life came to an end by some skinny nerd who was freaking out. So I think that's the main thing in martial arts is that you always got to know, like, just because you're super strong or you're super whatever, you're really good at fighting, doesn't mean you can't get got, you know?
In the Soviet Union, where most American athletes were often greeted with jeers and boos from the crowd, David was cheered and became something of a fan favorite. This made him a seemingly perfect fit. The only problem was he already had prior commitments coaching at various colleges around the country, and he was unwilling to forego those even for the considerable salary he would have been offered by Mr. DuPont.
It's an honorable dude. He was gonna get given all this money, but he was committed to winning championships and training the college kids that he was training.
Mark, however, the offer was simply too good to turn down. He was also an extremely gifted teacher who, while a bit more gruff, even allowed John.
I switched from due dates to due dates.
All right, so we're gonna skip all that. Basically, what ends up happening is the DuPont dude ends up murdering Dave Schultz, all right, because he's having some type of schizophrenic breakdown, and he didn't like that Dave Schultz was everybody looked up to him and everybody liked him, and he was basically the leader of the wrestling team, and he wanted to be Dave Schultz. All the money in the world couldn't give him the charisma he wanted. All the money in the world couldn't give him the respect that he wanted. You know what I'm saying? Which is what he truly wanted. And murdering Dave Schultz. So in MMA, there's so many stories, and I think we're gonna start getting into some of these stories. I mean, we got stories like Lee Murray, and he committed one of the biggest bank robberies ever in history, and he's in jail to this day. And he was a great fighter. He fought Anderson Silva, and they had a really good fight. You got guys like the War Machine story. Obviously, it's a crazy story. We have the Phil Baroni story, which is a crazy story. We got stories like the Evan Tanner story, which Evan Tanner was a guy who was actually a champion in the UFC back in the day, and he was on some type of spiritual journey, and he went into the desert in California, Death Valley, and and he died in the valley. You know, we got stories like the BJ Penn story that's evolving right before our eyes. BJ Penn is talking about his family is cloned and stuff like that, which I don't know what he's got going on. But there's so many good stories in MMA. It's real life WWE. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't write the stuff that's happening in the world right now in a movie. And when they do write it in these Hollywood movies, it's nowhere near as good, which the Smash Machine is a perfect example of that. And it's just a real human story. You know, some of you guys might be struggling with all different types of things. Who the fuck knows? You know, and when you see someone like Mark Kerr struggling, but meanwhile he's looking like the Hulk, and he's beating people's ass in the ring, and he's making all this money, and he has a beautiful girlfriend, beautiful wife, whatever. But at the same time, he's a slave to the drugs. It's a good story. It's a beautiful story, you know. And it's great to see him come out on top on the other end. But look at how many martial arts or high-level athletes have struggled with addiction. Mike Tyson back in the day. Man, he was struggling with addiction big time, I believe. Or if he wasn't struggling with addiction, he was struggling with all types of things. The Mike Tyson of today is not the Mike Tyson of back in the day. You know, damn, the more I think about it, the 90s had like the best entertainment in martial arts. You know what I'm saying? You had Mike Tyson, you had the UFC coming out, you had amazing wrestlers, you had amazing boxers, some of the best boxing fights in history all happened in the 90s. You had Tupac, you had Biggie, you know what I'm saying? You had all types of crazy stuff going on in the 90s. The 90s was a hell of an era. The hell of an era. But yeah, that's basically it for today, guys. You know, when the movie The Smash Machine comes out, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna keep an open mind. I'm not gonna get pissed off, and I'm gonna see, you know, what the difference is. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to find the original Smash Machine documentary, and we're gonna do a side-by-side review of it. You know, and your boy was almost in the movie. I was legit this close to being in the movie and being one of the black dudes that the Rock fights in the movie. And so yeah, but much love, learn to fight, and I'll be doing many more live streams. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.